Hello and welcome into the Knicks-Verse first off-season live stream with Quis of Sports Vibes TV. And my name is George. Welcome. If you've never been here before, please subscribe and hit that thumbs up button for us. And definitely drop your comments. Love the comments. Quis, welcome, brother.
Salute, George. How's everything with you, man? You enjoying your day so far?
So far, getting stuff done. Diving into this off season that we've been talking about, been thinking about. Pulling in all the materials together to see what is the right move for this team this summer. And that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at what would be like the dream off season according to Quis and George for the Knicks. And what we've done is we set up a top three. And a lot of them, we share a lot of them, but then we have slightly different, we look at the same need just in a slightly different way, but not really that much. It's just kind of gives it a nice, like a rounder way of looking at it all. And salute to the chat. Thank you guys for joining us. We've been looking forward to doing this one. We were going to do it yesterday, but it was Easter. Yeah, it was Easter. So how about you, man? How you been feeling this off season so far?
I've been good. Been enjoying some of the playoff basketball, seeing what else is out there around the league, and enjoying some of the thrilling matchups we saw. Celtics versus Nets. That was a pretty interesting game. Came down to the buzzer. So I spent a lot of time just, catching up on what's going on around the league and looking at some other teams.
Yeah, similar for me. I've been enjoying I've watched probably almost every single playoff game, at least parts of every single one, if not at least half of them entirely. And I've been impressed. I've been impressed by the level of play. I feel like I have some interesting perspectives on the team, on the actual Knicks, and where we ended up in comparison to some of these other teams that kind of snuck in at the end. So we'll get through that. First, I want to shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for joining us. Lex the Destroyer, thanks for holding it down. Best mod around. I really appreciate it, man.
Bars. George you're a rapper out here.
Yeah, rapping bars. Oh man. We got Brian Ferreira, Sincere to Genius, Brandel Perez. Good to see you, Geraldine. Excellent. All right, Tricky Nicky.
Yep, salute to everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in on this Monday afternoon. Well, I guess it's evening at this point, right?
You know what? We're heading into the summer, man.
Well, depending on where you are, right? Because it's still afternoon over by you.
Oh, it's early over here. It's only three something over here, and it feels early. It feels really early. So before we jump into everything that's been happening, I do want to talk about the Berman talk show circuit that he's been on. And I gotta commend the channels that got him on to talk. They were very informative. I watched all of Nick's Nick of Time. I didn't watch all of Nick's Buzz. It kind of tuned in. I do want to watch it all, but it's similar. He said similar stuff. You have any initial thoughts about the interviews with Berman?
Well, with Berman, I think the major talking point was the fact that Tibbs is starting to regret some of his decisions throughout the season. So the fact that he didn't play some of the young guys and he relied too heavily on some of his vets. So that was my main takeaway from those interviews when he went over there and had a conversation with them. And we discussed it, and you just have to look forward and hope this is a positive sign for next season. So that was pretty much my biggest takeaway, is if he's honest and true about what he's saying behind the scenes, which is the fact that he should have relied on some of the younger guys, and most specifically Obi, IQ, and also Grimes somewhat. And Deuce, I believe, was the one that they mentioned, right, by name. It was Obi, Quick, and Deuce. Yeah. So yeah. So hopefully he takes that, him realizing that he messed up, and he just applies it next season, and we don't do anything drastic in the offseason. That's my biggest fear heading into this offseason, that we go make a drastic move and ship some of these young guys out of here.
You know what? We're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss that because despite the Leon letter to which you got, right?
Yeah, I got the letter.
Season ticket holder. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the all the love that he gave to the young core, the eight players, 24 and under, and all that jazz. Despite all that, and the focus on that, and the development, and the interview that he did with Breen, we're kind of just mashing it all together with the Thibs comments too. Now, I still think that the Knicks, like Leon, I think they're poised right now to pounce if a disgruntled star makes themselves available. And we'll discuss whether it's the right time. Just like last season, we were in a similar thing. Remember it was Dame Lillard. That's who we had the big boner for last season. Now it's a couple other players.
He's hurt.
Now he's hurt.
Pivoted.
Yep. So we'll jump into that. And one thing, Brendel Perez, he puts in thoughts on the Knicks brass at the Mavs game. Well,
that leads us into number one.
It sure does. It sure does.
Just a shout out Angel Torres before you move on past the comment. He says also Cam Reddish. That was one of the guys he didn't mention behind the scenes was Cam Reddish. I'm a little concerned about his future with the Knicks.
Yeah. Brendo, we will get into that specifically when we get to that section of the show. It's a great question. Great for us to comment on. But I think, you know what? Here's the thing with Thibs, I mean, he's not a fool, even though he was foolish to not play the younger guys earlier. He just wanted to win. He wanted to win. He felt the heat. The topic of firing him was even broached around the trade deadline, and Dolan gave his blessing. So it was something that was being discussed. And why? Because the Knicks were underperforming, and they felt like Thibs didn't embrace the youth early enough. But at the same time, Thibs wasn't embracing them because he needed to win to hold on to his job. He felt, that's just his approach. He's not a patient guy. He's not here for a 3-year rebuild. Not here for that at all. So I think his regret is based upon that he saw that he can actually win. He thinks he can win with Obi and IQ and some of the other pieces. He thinks they can contribute to winning now. One thing that Berman did say in the interview with Nick of Time is that he said that at the trade deadline, when they were looking at moving Julius Randle, Obi wasn't playing well. He was still kind of struggling. Now, you and I have specific opinions why that was happening, but that's actually what was happening. So it kind of handcuffed him a little bit. They couldn't really force a Julius trade because they weren't sure what they had with Obi. Even though the Obi issue hasn't been solved 100%, he definitely has shown that you can win NBA basketball games with Obi as your power forward in this game, as your starting power forward. Whether he's better than Julius and all that stuff, we can debate all that, but can he contribute to winning? Yes, and that's what I think Thibs saw, and maybe that's what he was regretting. What are your feelings about that?
It would make sense for him to have major regret because the reason his line or his job was on the line because people in the front office were saying we can win with the kids, and he was resisting that movement. So the fact that now we're able to see these guys go out there, get substantial minutes on the court and show that they can play winning basketball, he has to look back and say, hey, I'm getting up there as a coach. These aren't years I can get back. And he probably missed out on potential playoff basketball by not getting those guys out there early enough. And as we can see from some of the young teams that are in the playoffs this year, you can get some valuable minutes for your young guys in terms of their development and being able to come back next year and, build off of that. So for us not to have that opportunity with guys like Quick, Obi, RJ, even Mitch getting valuable minutes in the playoffs, I think is an opportunity lost. And we just have to position ourselves next season if we're gonna have Thibs in a way where he can't default back to what works or what he's comfortable with. Sometimes, as a coach, you have to, expand your horizons just a little bit. You got to operate outside your comfort zone. And if that's relying on the kids next season, and that's exactly what Tibbs is going to have to do, because I don't think we can continue to have another season where Fournier is saying we should run it back with the same vets and things like that. Even, there are some vets we can keep. I think Fournier is a guy that can shoot, knock down the three, and has some value. People say Burks has value, defensively, guarding bigger guards. He can also knock down the three. So we do have some vets on this team that can, give us some valuable minutes next season. We just can't have them as focal points of the offense or anything like that. I think if Tibbs is able to make those adjustments, you're going to see the Knicks have a much better season next year just off of him making those minor adjustments when it comes to the rotations and things like that. And now it's going to be on the front office to bring him some additional pieces that are in step with our mindset and our goal as a franchise.
Yeah. I think I think I worry. I worry that Thibs, this is what I think actually really happened. He heard the criticisms, but he also heard them last season. And he stuck to his guns, and it worked last season. Now, there were specific reasons why it worked last season, and it didn't work this season. But when it started not working this season, he didn't want to pivot because it worked last season. He thought I think he really believed at some point Julius was going to turn it around. I really did think I think he thought that. And I think he also thought that D Rose was going to come back. Maybe after a little rest and the surgery, he'll come back. He'll be energized to go for those last 2 months of the season, and then that we'll be able to sneak in to the play-in and maybe pull off what the Pelicans just did and get into the playoffs. And then that would justify his whole approach. I really believe that that's what Thibs thought. But when it started, we've used the captain of the ship analogy already before. Once we started taking on water, I think he just froze. He just got stubborn. And that's the part that scares me about him. It's fine for him to say in hindsight now, and at least he says it, hey, I wish I had played the kids earlier. But he's only saying that in hindsight. He's not saying that during that time, I thought I should have played the kids and I made a mistake and it went the other way. No, he's saying, now I think I should have played the kids. It's kind of what he's intimating. So I'm still worried. I'm still worried about him in general. And I do think, like you're saying, we're gonna have to take some toys away from him. And that's one of the items on the list here. In fact, why don't we just go to, well, before we get to it,
you got a super chat?
Yeah, let's shout out the chat and check out what everyone's comments are and stuff. You guys have any questions or whatever, just drop them in. We have a structured show, but we'll get to them at the end. And so we definitely especially appreciate the super chats. Tramel White, thank you so much. The $5 contribution. Think RJ will go a long way in the Cam decision. Berman also said Brass likes Cam. Cam is a 3-level scorer who can defend what's not to like. I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, because we are two big fans of Cam, especially you, Quis.
Yeah, but I'm still nervous when it comes to Cam, because look at the trade deadline and that rumored deal where we were going to ship him, where was it, to the Lakers? With Alec Burks, and all we were really getting out of that deal was giving up some cap heavy contracts and Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks in his deal, and I think we would get what was it, the Raptors first, and what's the thing, Goran Dragic.
I can't remember the exact. Yes, yeah, that's what we were going to get.
Dragic in the first we were going to get, and then
you're talking about the 3-team deal.
Yeah, we were giving up Burks and Cam to the Lakers, and then I think Nerlens was going with Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if the front office was willing to give up Cam for that, which is pennies, I think keeping Cam on this team and having him as a potential piece on this future is a much better option than even entertaining that type of deal. I don't think Cam should be dangled out there as a piece just to get us out of some bad cap situations, especially when, a lot of people look at those deals and realize, for the most part, they're 1-year deals because, the third year and most of those contracts aren't guaranteed. So my preference would be this offseason, try to find a creative way to move some of those cap contracts or some of those contracts and still find a way to keep our young guys and develop around them. Cam being one of them. I think Cam should be in the starting lineup starting next year. We discussed it on our channel. I think that's definitely where he should be slotted heading into next season.
I definitely would be, if we don't use him as a piece to acquire like a big name, a big star. I think just trading him just to consolidate assets and whatnot, I don't think that's a good idea. He's got tremendous upside. I think there's a possibility that he could be a high level 3-level scorer, number 3. I think he could be and he can also play some power forward, especially a full season, a full off season. Hopefully, well, we got to get some more information on when he might start actually doing some workouts and stuff, some training again because of the injury. Haven't heard anything about that yet. But let's say when he goes into training camp, I mean, Thibs can just look at him and be like, you know what? I mean, depending on who's here and who's not here, but let's assume he's here. Look at him in that small ball lineup, at your 4, if you have Obi here, Obi Cam as alternating 4-5s, as a 3-4, and maybe if Julius is still here, he's the 5. Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting front court. Julius can hold it down against some of the bigger centers, as well as, most power forwards can. And then you have these other 2 guys that are just lightning quick. They can slip between seams. And they can rebound, they can pass. I mean, it could be an interesting scenario. But then again, it requires creativity, which is one of the things that we haven't seen. Yeah. But as far as RJ being a key part of this Cam decision, I think RJ is in on Cam. He would have told them no. I don't think they would even have made the trade if RJ isn't a Cam fan on the team.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tramel, for that contribution there. There were some other ones here. So, Jay Boogie's in.
We got another super chat, I think, from Adele.
Man, let's see. There we go. Adele Chapman. Thank you, brother. Beside Brunson, who else is worth it in free agency? We'll touch upon that. But it's Slim Pickens. It's Slim Pickens, man. I mean, Tyus
unless
Jones,
you're going to shop in the Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine area of free agency, and that's if Zach LaVine decides he's going to leave Chicago.
It's a lot of ifs.
Exactly.
Ifs. But in terms of Brunson type free agents, I mean, there's Tyus Jones. He's I think he's a restricted free agent. Maybe he could be even unrestricted. 100%. He's like the only other name that I've heard float around in terms of point guards. Yeah. The point guard situation is tricky. It's a tricky one. I think we may have to, you and I already talked about this. We're in favor of going with IQ. Starting the year with IQ as your starting point guard. D Rose is his backup. And then you bring it. I mean, we have Deuce. If Deuce is still with the team, Deuce could be an excellent backup point guard as well. Those when you want to rest the D Rose, or you can play them together. That could be an interesting situation, kind of like what we had with IQ and D Rose coming off the bench. But if you did want to solidify that position more and get some insurance, a Tyus Jones wouldn't be a terrible addition.
Especially short term.
Yeah, short term. I'm looking at it as a short term. I'm looking at it as a 1 season.
A 1-and-1?
A 1-and-1.
For the second year?
Yeah, option for the second year. A 1-and-1. I think we can sign. We have some exemptions. There's definitely some moves that we can make. So he's an interesting one. I don't know. I can't think of another name because I've been looking for months of anyone else that might be interesting. I mean, I don't know. Is there anyone else you can think of?
Tyus Jones is the only one that really has been linked to the Knicks. And if you look at most point guards in this league of, guards of value very rarely hit the open market. So I think right now those are the only two. And you look at Brunson, he's probably going to be in that area where we saw Fred VanVleet kind of get paid. So if you don't want to spend that type of money, I guess Tyus Jones would be a good alternative. But honestly, I'm all for going with Quick this season as point guard. It'll allow us to see what he can do, and it will give us the opportunity to evaluate him throughout the season and make a decision for the 2023 NBA draft.
All righty. Great. Let's we got some other chats in here. I want to show Jay Boogie. Shout out the closer. I'm scared too many bosses at the Dallas game. You don't have to go watch Donovan. So what they there for? That's what I was thinking. I'm not taking Brunson over IQ. Too slow run, 5.9 and a 40. Is that right? Is that his? He does look slow, but you know what? He's crafty though. He knows how to create space. He knows how to get between gaps. But he's not, the athletic kind of guy we want. Salute. 3 capitals. Thank you, Jay Boogie, for that contribution. Yeah, I'm already on record saying I don't believe that Brunson is worth the money in light of what we already have with IQ.
Yep.
So I'm
especially the fact that you'd have to pay him the bag, and it'll be a long-term deal. I would assume at least 3 to 4 years.
Yep, and it's gonna be a sign and trade. So there's a lot of negatives there for what we'll be getting back, because the question would be, is he the answer for us constructing? And by dream off season, guys, just so you guys know, dream off season, from my point of view, is getting this team back on that path to building a championship team, a contending roster. I feel like we kind of got knocked off that a little bit, but thankfully, because of the great drafting that the Knicks did, and they drafted high character guys who, that even though they are, on the team under the tyranny of Thibs, they can still overcome it eventually, because that's the kind of quality that they are. So
they're gym rats.
They're gym rats, exactly. And they do, they love each other. They love hanging out with each other. They love playing with each other. That's why that chemistry is developing. So the dream off season specifically is getting this team back on track to building a contender. And in that criteria, I don't see Brunson as that answer.
Yeah, I don't think either one of us see Brunson as the starting point guard on the championship team.
No. Drew Licata, shout out to you, brother. I found it interesting that Thibs privately said he screwed up this season. I would have actually forgave him if he took accountability and apologized. This is what Thibs preaches.
I'm not even too concerned about him apologizing. Just admit it. You know what I mean? If you don't want to apologize to the fans, that's cool. You're not obligated to, but that's important for fans to know, that you have come to your senses and realize that you made a mistake. And if you can come and explain that publicly, then it puts us in a better space as fans moving towards next season and how he's going to run the ship.
100% agree. I don't think an apology, like an actual "I'm sorry," is necessary. I think acknowledging it publicly is, in essence, kind of like an apology. So I wish he would come out, and say it. I mean, he did almost a 20-minute post-game press conference after the final game, and he danced around this a little bit. He danced around it, never said it, but he definitely talked a lot about the development of the youth and everything. And so I believe that it's genuine. I believe it's genuine that he privately feels he screwed up because he wants to win. He wants to win. And the facts are the facts. You are what your record says you are. This is a 37-45 team. We missed the play-in even. We missed the playoffs. So you coached a team that was constructed to be better than the team that was a 4th seed the year before, and you could not even get them into the playoffs. So, yes, he should definitely admit it out loud to the public. I agree. All right, before we jump in, were there any other did you see any other interesting comments here?
There's a super chat from Adult Chapman. He says, "What year does Rokas come to the NBA?" I don't think it'll be this season. I think it'll be the year following.
And sadly,
They
might
got
be
to give
because
him 2 years in Barker.
yeah, and it could be because of Thibs.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to come and be on the shuttle bus from MSG to Westchester.
Yeah. Or well, last season it was all the way up to Connecticut and Bridgeport.
Yeah,
Even worse.
I mean, why do that when you
a hell of a commute?
Yeah, I mean, when you can play against really good talent in the Spanish league there, and he'll probably be the starter for Barcelona next season.
Mm-hmm. And the coach over there is invested in him. Remember, the coach told him he has a 3-year plan for him. So why would you give up, those years that are instrumental in you developing as a player, especially as a point guard? Why would you give those years up to be over here in the U.S. playing G League games when you can go play in the second best league in the world and get a full opportunity to showcase your talents and abilities?
Absolutely agree. Thank you, Adele, for the contribution. Yeah, I think Rokas will probably at the earliest would be not next season, but the season after. That would be my guess. Then again, though,
Rose is off the books, right? Rose is off the books that year. Tibbs might be fired by then.
Yeah.
And then everything everything was set in motion for Rokas to make his appearance.
Yeah. You just outlined like a doomsday scenario.
Nah, I mean that might be the that might be the dream scenario for 2023 off season.
Leon will be beheaded and Thibs. But yeah, let's hope for the best. Let's hope that they make these good moves this offseason and we get back on track. And I mean, Thibs is a winning coach. As frustrating as he is to us, he is a winning coach. Yeah, winning-ish coach. If he has the right pieces, the pieces that make sense for not the present and the future, then who knows? He might get us to the playoffs next season. That's a big if, though, right now, based upon what we've seen.
That's a fact.
Yeah. Shout out to the chat. We have about over 100 in the chat. Thank you guys so much. Hit that thumbs up button. Really appreciate that. And all right, let's get to the first slide. Here we go. These are the Knicks' top 3 off-season dream moves, according to Quis and George. And they're kind of similar. Number one, Quis's is to trim the fat, move Randall, Kemba, Nerlens, and either Burks or Fournier. And mine is trade Randall. That's my dream off-season move.
Get him out of here.
Yeah, get him out of here. Exchange for a big star or addition by subtraction. I believe that. I 100% believe that removing Randall from this team will be addition by subtraction. But we'll get into that. Quis, you have the floor.
Yeah, man, this would be the first thing on the itinerary for this offseason. We got to move off of players like Julius Randle, Kemba. I think that's just obvious. We have to move on from him. He's been away from the team since the All-Star break, and we should try to facilitate a move to a team that can use him in another role. Nerlens Noel, we got virtually nothing from him this season, so I would love for us to move off from him and free up some of that cap room so we can bring in players that can actually contribute and be a little bit more reliable out there on the court. And then when you look at Burks and Fournier, I think they both have value. I just think it's a little bit redundant when you look at what those two can provide and some of the other guards on our roster. And I'd rather free up some minutes for some of our young guys as opposed to bringing back Burks and a Fournier. Me personally, I'd probably bring back Fournier because he's proven to be the more deadly shooter. And, with Burks, I mean, he has shown moments where he's been clutch in fourth quarters and things of that nature. But I'm looking at, some other guys on this roster that I want to see out there in that closing lineup. So for that, I'd offer up Burks in a deal to see if we can get something done.
100%. I mean, I agree with everything. I mean, here, it's interesting. Your number 2 is kind of like my number. Your number 1 is kind of like my number 2. And we'll get into that one. Which is basically it's take the toys away from Thibs. So that's I look, if we can moving Randall is essential. I think it's 100% essential. If this team goes into next season with Randall on this roster without a bona fide number 1 on our team to replace Randall as the number 1 in his mind, we're going to be in trouble. Someone put in the chat, he doesn't want to take a step down from anybody. He doesn't want to hand the keys over of the team to anybody or something like that. And that's absolutely right. And I think that was part of what happened to him mentally this season. He saw that he wasn't, he didn't want to share, he didn't want to share the leadership of the team with RJ. So I think, and then you have Obi waiting in the wings, who's already shown. I mean, some people were saying, oh, well, Randall's, he's just, as far as a power forward, he has so many aspects to his game, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just he's like incredibly inefficient. And I don't really see that changing much. Whereby Obi actually, that's what he gives you is efficiency. And if Obi's not hitting his 3-point shot, he can still make things happen.
Yep.
Where Randall, I think this is number one. I'll be bummed if we go into the next season and let's say, just to play devil's advocate, let's say, for example, who's a player that we could add to this team without obviously giving up RJ or Randall, where Randall would then be willing to kind of like take a step down. Let's say, for example, this
like a CP3 or something like that.
Exactly. A CP3 kind of guy.
Dame
Lillard. Yeah, I could see Randall functioning within that dynamic. I can see his fragile psyche being able to handle that. But if you bring in another guy, like a Brogdon, I don't think Brogdon might be good because he's a point guard and stuff, but I just don't see. I think it's just going to be chaos. And we saw it already. We saw it. Most of the problems with Randall, other than him being the least efficient high volume scorer in the entire NBA, other than that, he could not handle sharing the limelight. It got to him. The Obi chance, RJ chance. Can you imagine next season?
Well, based on what we saw at the Dallas game, we might have to.
We haven't gotten confirmed. We haven't gotten confirmed what that was about.
From what I saw, it looked like they were pretty cozy.
Well, it'd be weird if they didn't talk to each other and they're in this. I don't think they didn't go there together.
They were sitting next to each other. From what I
only
saw.
at halftime.
I hear you.
Yeah, it wasn't during the game. So
I was hoping that they were out there trying to explain to Julius how nice it'll be going to Dallas and not enacting his trade kicker. Yeah. That's my fingers crossed, man. Hey, this is your hometown. You enjoy yourself. Don't enact that 15% trade kicker.
For all we know. Let's hope. Let's cross our fingers on that. Got an interesting one here. Didn't fully read this, but I just saw the 2010 5 reference. The most disingenuous and misguided 2010 5 in the league. JR being the highest usage player with the least amount of efficiency, and the advanced metrics prove that. Yes, that is absolutely right. Yeah, so I get annoyed. I was going to do a slide exactly showing.
I was going to say the same thing, George. I get annoyed when people go to the 2010 and 5.
Oh, it's annoying.
Like, you look at the rest of the stat line though. Do you want anybody, with those numbers shooting 41% from the field and 31% from three? It's a whole bunch of chucking.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you look at the turnovers, but over 3 turnovers a game.
And it's not like he's getting 15 rebounds a game, and 7 offensive rebounds. No, and a lot of the rebounds is because he is the biggest guy out on the court.
A lot of them, he's taking them from teammates. You want to be honest about it.
Yes.
He's in the mix fighting his teammates for the rebounds, trying to get his numbers.
Yep. So that is absolutely 100%. I agree. That is a disingenuous stat line. All right. Let's I think it's number one. So I think number one we're talking about here is remove some of the older players from this roster so that the younger guys can flourish. That's like really what this is about. This number one. That's the top offseason, the dream offseason moves, according to Quis and I. The second one is very close to Quis's heart. Resign Mitch, and mine is tame Thibs. So as you'll see, that's why I meant tame Thibs. It's take away the choice, and and Leon has to have that talk with him and say, look, whoever XYZ is still on the roster, you have to go with these guys. Of course, injuries and all that stuff happen. You have all that flexibility, but let's put the focus on. It's not even the word development anymore. These guys showed they can play. I mean, are you developing Grimes? Grimes can defend with as good as any guard in this league right now. And the guy can shoot a three as good as any wing in the league right now. So how's that development? It's just letting him get better.
It's not development, it's opportunity. You gave him opportunity, and he showed you what he could do.
Exactly. I do want to read this tweet out that Ian Bagley had put out a couple days ago. Actually, it was last weekend. Tom Thibodeau says, what happens in off season is out of his hands, but he'd love to have Mitchell Robinson back next season. Robinson is extension eligible and can be an unrestricted free agent this summer. Quis, you're number 2.
Yeah, one of the dreams this offseason is that we're able to resign Mitch and not allow him to walk. I think Mitch shows that he can be an impactful center in this league. He's elite when it comes to his offensive rebounding, one of the best when it comes to his shot blocking and rim protection. And I think, even though there's some areas of his game that we would like to see him get better at, at the forefront of that is his offensive skill set and being able to do something other than just dunk. But I think if you look at him, he's still a young player and he can still develop some of those moves. And we don't even need him to do much. I think we've talked about it all season. All we need is maybe a nice little baby hook. And if he could knock down a nice little 15, 16-foot mid-range, jump shot. Yeah, in a perfect world, he'd be able to stretch things out to, like a Taj, what we've seen Taj do this offseason. Speaking about, veterans and their development, Taj has developed his 3-point shooting from the corner. So hopefully that's something Mitch can develop as well if he's given the opportunity and given, the leeway to try. I know a lot of people have been saying, why doesn't Mitch put up any perimeter jump shots? Well, you hear what Obi was saying about him being concerned about being pulled. If you're looking at Mitch in a season where he's up for a contract, you might not want to go and get a little too crazy putting up jump shots, knowing your coach might bench you real quick, especially for a veteran like Taj or Nerlens when he was healthy. So hopefully when he has that security with the contract, we can start to see him explore some of his game a little bit more. But I think from his time here, we've seen that Mitch has been a difference maker when he is on the court, and we've seen him eclipse 2 career highs this season. 1, games played, which is very important for him coming off of that Jones fracture, and also field goal percentage. So for him to have those career highs, to see him, still taking steps in his game and becoming better and becoming more durable as we saw this season, I think that all points to us re-signing Mitch. But one disclaimer, it has to be for a reasonable price point. I'm not trying to get too crazy, go up into like the $20 million per year range for, a center that I must admit has some limitations or has a lot of limitations offensively.
Yeah. I agree on every aspect here, especially, signing him for the right price. Definitely don't want to get into a weird scenario where like someone kind of poison pills us, offers some 17 per. That gets tricky because, their centers, especially centers like him, they're just, even though he's at the higher end in terms of the efficiency and the offensive rebounding he gives you and the rim protection, the athleticism, and I can only foresee him being even more active next year out on the court, being able to go back to the player he was like 2 seasons ago, where he could, block a shot at the rim and then run out and block a 3-point attempt.
Well, didn't he do that to KD this year?
He did a bit of it. Yeah, a little. I mean, but you know how he used to do it? It was like almost effortless for him. Where he started doing it towards the end of the season. So I think he's gonna just keep doing that now. I mean, that's just something special that he gives you. But offensively, he's limited offensively, and I've talked about some of the things we hope he'd do this summer. Go to the Elijah camp, learn some real get at least 2 or 3 signature moves. and maybe one is like you totally perfect, and the other two you have them and you keep refining them, but you got to pull them out, you got to use them. But like you said, a good point. When you have a coach like Thibs, you could be concerned that if you don't do what Thibs asks you to do, you're limiting your potentiality of getting the bag later on. So, but he won't be in that scenario next season if he's with us. One of the things that I think if we can get him at that, what do you think? The 12 million, 13 million per?
The highest that probably goes 15. Because if we could get him for 12 or 13, we'd probably sign him already. Because I think the
15
max
for
we could
15 for 3?
15 for 3 and probably give him an option year.
A player option?
Yeah, I'd give him the player option. He's still a young guy.
Yeah, he's still a young guy.
Yeah. Extremely young. He's still in his early 20s. We're acting like he's in his mid to late 20s right now.
Yeah, I mean, Splashin says Sims already got more moves than Mitch. LOL.
Got better footwork. Yep.
Yeah, he does have better footwork. Yes, and that's the
but
thing.
He also spent more time in college to work on those things.
Yeah, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's a win-win situation if we re-sign Mitch, and we also have Sims, because if Sims keeps developing, and then who knows, maybe that
becomes a trade piece.
Exactly.
Or vice versa. Sims could be the trade piece.
Yeah, but Mitch's contract will be at that size that might fit with another couple players to get that big star, by the trade deadline in mid-season. I'm saying it's a good asset to have. And I just hope that we don't get into a weird bidding war with him. However, if there is some kind of weird situation, we already talked about the DeAndre Ayton maybe being a possibility, sign and trade. I know the Mavs have shown interest in him. Who else is it? The Pistons. Yeah, Pistons have shown interest in him. So it's gonna be tricky, but we definitely have to fill his shoes. Either if it's not with him, it's got to be somebody else, but we can't just let him go for nothing. But I would prefer to re-sign him. As far as taming Thibs, the other part of it, the other half of the taming Thibs idea, it wasn't just remove the toys. It's also drill it into this guy's head. Don't play the minute load. Don't load the minutes up on your guys the way you have been doing your entire career. Get that shit together, man. Cat just made fun of you in a post-game show. Yeah, he just said, he didn't even realize last time he played 43 minutes. Oh, guess who it was? Thibs. And he laughed. Likely, yeah. It's like, bro, you're burning your guys out, even for your own scheme to work. These guys have no legs in the fourth quarter because you're playing them too many minutes. Even if Randall comes back, he doesn't have to play 36 minutes. He could play 30, 29 minutes. He can average 29, 30 minutes a game. Same with RJ. And those extra minutes get spread around, and you will reap the benefits of it later on in the fourth quarter and later on in the season as well. That's part of the tame Thibs. That's the other half of the tame Thibs thing. You want to add anything to that?
No. I think you pretty much said it all for me. I mean, with Thibs, I don't know. I've seen some people in the chat saying Thibs has been okay, but honestly, I just haven't seen him be the caliber of coach that I see some people say. A lot of people wanted Cat to be a New York Knick. We're seeing with that quote from Cat that even he isn't too fond of Tom Thibodeau. So if he's going to continue to play these guys high minutes and not let them have anything in the tank, even if he does make some of these adjustments and play some of the young guys and he overplays them, we're still going to see some of the mistakes and some of the errors. So Thibs definitely has to adjust his coaching style and understand that depth is what this league is about right now. They were saying it on the broadcast. Previous eras, it was all about, having a top heavy talent. But right now you're looking at guys that you can look at up and down the roster and say, okay, if it's not your game, I still have somebody that's of option that can be a valuable contributor. And that way, throughout a full 82 season, you're not burning out guys and you're not putting guys in compromising positions where they could potentially get injured. So definitely Tibbs has to adjust his coaching style and his outlook towards the game. Every game is not do or die. It's a long season for a reason. And sometimes you have to put, your players' health over, the win-loss record.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, Cat did say, one of the reasons he is prepared to play 40 minutes is because of Thibs, so he did say that. However, it's not something it's not your go-to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when that moment presents itself, then you do it. But we've seen it with Thibs. We've all seen it with Thibs. That to him, it's just the way he rolls. That's why Obi only averaged 15, 14 minutes a game, this season. And that's including those times when he got the start when Randall was out. So he really only averaged about 10 minutes a game. In reality, like when games were meaningful on the line, Obi really only averaged about 10 minutes a game. Sometimes when we were blown out, you saw some of Obi, but even then he'd keep his starters out there. And it just burns them out, man. Burns them out. I saw something else here. He's just a bad coach. Shout out to Keith Turner. What's up, brother?
He said Cat even talked about Thibs. He's just a bad coach, but good assistant coach.
Yeah.
He's a good defensive coordinator.
Ooh. Woo. I hope he's not listening to this. He'll be pissed.
He's not listening. He doesn't
really
think we
pissed.
watch the games 2 or 3 times to really have a valid understanding of the game. So I don't think he's gonna pay us any mind.
Yeah, that's how he rolls. All right, before we get to the third one, you want to shout anybody out in the chat?
Let's see. Bayside Jr., he skipped ahead. He said number 4, get D'Antoni as the offensive coach or similar.
Yeah, I think that's another actually shout out to, I can't remember who asked him on KOT, but great question. They said, what do you think about an offensive coordinator? They asked Berman. And Berman's right. I mean, Thibs doesn't he doesn't even talk to his assistants in terms of strategy in game during the game. So what makes us think that he's going to have an offensive coordinator? He'll take it as like a kick to the throat. It'll be a nice pick to his ego. He won't be a fan of it. He's just, unfortunately, that's just the scenario that we're in with this coach.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I don't think Thibs would be interested in having another person enter into the coaching room. I think he wants to be the voice. He wants his system to be run, and that doesn't leave room for an offensive coordinator to step in.
Yeah, I mean, see, the coordinator has a voice, technically during games. So that's where I don't think. But could he get an offensive-minded assistant coach that when they're, off to the side, when not during game time, and they can strategize some ideas, he can present some ideas. I would hope that he would be interested in that. And I think that's kind of what Woodson gave him.
Woodson was more so a defensive guy to me. I from his previous 10 years, I don't think he's really had a dedicated offensive guy that kind of followed him. For the most part, he's run his system and he's done his thing. I mean, the front office tried to implant some, I guess, molds, if you want to call them that, with, Johnny Bryant, Kenny Payne, et cetera, to kind of have their input, heard, but haven't seen much from that. So just based off of that, I can't say that if, we do bring in an offensive coordinator, it'd be something that Thibs would be happy with.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame because he's the perfect kind of guy that could really utilize an offensive-minded assistant coach or associate. Johnny Bryant is the associate head coach. I mean, it's an elevated assistant coach title.
Yeah, but we really don't know what Johnny Bryant's call to fame is. Like, is it player development? Is it offense? Is it defense? You know, I
We don't
mean,
know.
from what it seems like, what I've read, it's more so relationships. It's like everybody in this team, whether it be the coaching staff or the front office, everything is surrounded about, or everything is built upon relationships, as opposed to being the right fit for the job in terms of everything that the job entails. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think Johnny Bryant has the he's a good like one-on-one guy to kind of like help an individual player how to, where to be on the court, what to look for. Like he's always kind of talking into RJ's ear, and even IQ less so, but he's that kind of guy. He pulls someone aside when they're coming off the court, and he's like blah 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 blah. He tells them a few
So
things.
he's a film guy.
He's like a film guy. Yeah, he's that kind of guy. He's not talking about overall strategy of the actual game itself. He's talking about matchups, and spacing and things like. I mean, that's what I'm assuming. It looks like that. Those are the conference. They look like these little one-on-one conferences, but he doesn't seem like he has much input in overall game strategy, which is something that Thibs desperately needs because he
Right.
doesn't seem to pick up on things quick enough in game. So we'll hope. We'll hope. I thought I saw something interesting here. Let's see. Oh, Ray Rivera. Thank you so much for the contribution. Watching Willie Green fight, Lou coach his ass off without stars. Udoka, league has changed. Give a young coach a chance that can relate to players. Oh man, that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted here.
That or Kenny Atkinson. I wouldn't call Kenny Atkinson young, but
he's
I
not
guess
young,
he
but
would
he's in that kind of mold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's in that kind of mold. 100%. Look, that's what we wanted. I've already called for Thibs to be fired. Like during season.
There's not much more we can do at this point.
Nope. He's with us. But I 100% agree. Though I do think the you and I talked about this. We feel that if the Knicks get off, let's say those first 30 games, get off to a bad start, I do think that it's very highly, highly probable that Thibs will get let go. And then Berman actually echoed that.
So he's coaching for his life.
Yeah. So he's coaching for his life. So it just makes
So can we believe him when he says he's going to be playing the kids? Because what if the kids come out next season and come off to a rough start?
Well, hey, look, he's stubborn. So if he really did have that regret and that remorse, and he's like puts it all in to go with these kids to lead the way, I would imagine that he will stick with it. He'll stick with it because that's the thing. He doesn't pivot. So once he sets up his strategy and he goes with it, he looks at the season in three parts. Remember, he always said that. It's like first part, you kind of getting to know each other, kind of figure out kind of like what works. And then the second part is actually really honing in on that. And then by the third part of the season, everything is clicking and you're rolling, you're playing your best going into the postseason. So if he makes that decision off season to feature the kids and let the kids, we say kids, but let the young guys roll with, have them have the keys to this team, I do think he'll stick with it. But we have to see if he'll make that, if he'll really will commit to that decision. That's the part that I worry. Because he didn't come out in public and say.
Yeah.
So.
It ain't going to take much for him to pivot, I don't think. If we have a bunch of vets coming off the bench this time, I think he'll just pivot back to what he knows best, and he'll go with the guys he's comfortable with. If Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, Nerlens Noel, Derrick Rose, if that cast of characters is back next season, I think he's going to look towards them when they're on the bench if we hit any type of adversity. Julius Randle, he's going to play him heavy minutes. If we bring a lot of those guys,
we got to take those toys away.
Hey, I mean, I don't have kids, but I know that's easier said than done.
Oh, it is. They cry. They cry. They throw fits.
Exactly. Tantrums.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, shout out to the chat. We have 140 in the chat. That's awesome. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't hit it yet, and subscribe to Into the Knicks-Verse and Sports Vibes TV. We'll be doing live shows this off season intermittently. Focusing on different aspects of what's going on with the Knicks and in relationship to the entire NBA as well. And we'll be doing some draft stuff too, of course. The lottery, May 17th.
Yes, sir.
It's a big day. Salute, Jason M. Good to see you, brother. May 4th, Scott Woodruff. Good to see you,
Yep,
brother.
thank you guys
Lex.
for tuning in. The Coolest 718, D977,
Bayside
who else we
Junior,
got?
Jason
Wayne
Acosta.
Peterson. If Mitch is gone, Tibbs will start Noel. I mean, that is an alternative. If you can move Mitch for, I don't know, point guard maybe, and then pivot back to Noel. But I can't see this team relying on Nerlens Noel as the starter heading into next season. I can't see them relying on him in a backup role.
He's just too fragile, man.
Yeah. He got his money. God bless him. Let's move him on to another team.
Yeah. He's a backup. Nerlens is a good backup. And
he's a backup that you need a backup to because he's always dealing with the injuries.
There you go. Yep. Let's see. Brendel says, if Thibs is fired, do you guys see him getting another coaching job? I do not.
No.
I think this will be his last coaching job, which is makes the whole thing even worse.
That's why he's coaching for his life. He knows this is it for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I get it, man. I understand the scenario that you're in. You are at a certain age where you're getting aged out and you're worried about, I mean, basically earning for the rest of your life. Now you got a nice fat contract here, and you love the game and you want to, and you are a winning coach. Not going to take that away. 2-time coach of the year. So I get the desperation and the unwillingness to drift too far off from what has worked for you in the past. But that's also the reason why you are worried. And that's one of the reasons why moving on from an older guy is why people look upon that as an option, because they don't see you as someone who is willing to get, I hate to keep using the word creative, but to be to have inspired ideas to how to tackle each and every section of the game. You're not maximizing the talent on your squad because you're too focused on doing it one way, your way only. You got to adjust. You got to adjust to the lineup you have. And it might actually pay off. Because they obviously like to play for him. That's one thing. They do like to play for him. I will say that. It does feel that way, even though, OB was worried, looking over his shoulder or whatever. But it does get.
They like to play for each other. It just so happens that Tibbs is their coach. That's how I'll put it.
All right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Adam, thank you, brother, for the super chat contribution. OG, IQ.
QG.
QG, IQ, OB, Reddish, Sims, Deuce. Which player has most at stake next season for this team? Who has the most pressure? Well, I think the answer is really simple. Cam Reddish.
Yeah. He's the one that's not a homegrown draft pick. He's entering into a contract season.
Playing for a contract.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to show his full capabilities here in the NBA, and he's not going to have the same leash that some of the other guys are going to have in terms of playing well or playing bad and trying to work through it. So to me, it would be Cam has the most at stake, and he's under the most pressure.
Yeah, 100% agree. The next guy, and I know why a lot of people might think it would be Obi, but I don't see it as Obi. I see it actually as Deuce, because he was a second-round pick. His contract isn't, he's not in the best situation, and he may be still fighting for minutes. He may still be fighting to prove himself. So he may feel the most pressure, but I think he has the kind of similar like we were talking about the other guys. Gym rats, he has the mental makeup to deal with the pressure. But Reddish, not sure about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Deuce is a close second.
Yeah.
Deuce might be trade bait this offseason. Another one.
Could be. All right. Let's see. Let's go to slide number 3, which is our third top offseason move. It's the same one. Roster upgrade.
I mean, it's the offseason. We're getting rid of players. We got to upgrade the team at some point.
Exactly. What I like is that the way you approached it was upgrade the athleticism through draft via draft and free agency, and mine is add high basketball IQ players. Via draft. It could be trades also and free agency. The reason I want high basketball IQ guys is because I'm just tired of like the Randall type situation. Just making the wrong play at the wrong time. Even Evan Fournier, who is obviously a superior shooter, sometimes I'm like, what were you thinking on that move, dude? Burks overlooking Obi when he's wide open. Even though Burks is a good player, I wouldn't say he's a high IQ basketball player. These are guys that they win or they succeed mostly based on their athleticism and their talent, not necessarily their mentality, their mental approach to the game. And Quis, how about you? What do you?
Well, I said upgrade the athleticism because I want us to turn into the 7 seconds or less Knicks. Have IQ out there with Obi, with RJ, with Cam. If we can add some more athleticism, and I'm perfectly fine with competition. It was just last year Tibbs was trying to have these young guys compete against veterans that didn't have any long-term future with this team. So if we can bring in some more athletic wings, maybe another big man to compete with a Mitch and a Jericho Sims for backup minutes, I think that would be
an athletic one.
Go. An athletic one or one. Well, yeah,
I would love a Mo
one
Bamba.
that can, Mo Bamba. Well, he's athletic and he can also knock down.
He's athletic.
Three.
Thing is, I don't know about his basketball IQ.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing. Another player that's somewhat athletic that I think I might pick up the phone about is Rui, because you have Rui over there with the Washington Wizards. You don't have a backup 4 on this team with Obi. So if you can reach out to them, they've got Kispert over there. They've just recently drafted Avdija. They've got KP. They've got a lockjam, I think, of players that can kind of play in his position. So we can go and try to bring in a Rui like we did a Cam Reddish. That's something I would try to go about doing. He's a young player that might will find some promise here and on a team where he can, get some minutes behind Obi at the backup 4, even play some minutes at the 3. So that's how I would try to go about upgrading this team this offseason. And that way we can have competition with players that could potentially fit with this team long term. And then you're still also bringing in more assets. So if a major deal does present itself, you got pieces that you can put together and still have draft picks as well in order to make an appealing package.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, man. I agree with that. Like one of the things that I think Brunson has to his advantage is that I think he does seem to be like a high IQ basketball player. So his athleticism though isn't really where we'd want him to be, but at least he has that part. So it's going to be, this is why this is going to be such a tricky off season, because there aren't like that many obvious, easy fits and targets for us. And this is the kind of players that every team wants. They want, the Mikal Bridges, they want these kind of guys, athletic guys who are, get the game. They understand what's the best move at that moment. So it's going to be a tricky, but that's the criteria. If you're going to add guys, make sure that they got it physically and mentally together, and that hopefully that they're young. Last year, I was very adamant about they have to be young and have their better days ahead of them. I'm still in that scenario. However, it could be someone who's in the prime of their career, but is a cerebral player and can just beat this guy off the dribble when he needs to. So, I mean, we just described Zach LaVine. I did. That's
So you're in on Zach LaVine in the offseason? Make a move? Pair him with RJ?
I would love it, but he's not. I don't think that's
not going to be available.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. One player with athleticism that the people are mentioning in the chat, Keith Turner's mentioning Benedict Mathurin. He says changes your whole franchise. He's an Anthony Edwards clone. He's my dream pick. Love this kid. Yeah, Foxy behind the scenes telling me how much, well, on streams as well, telling everybody how much he loves Mathurin. So he would fit this profile as well for my
100% agree. That's why I put him in the thumbnail. And he might be there at 11. There's a couple guys, there's 2 international guys that are starting to get a lot of interest. Dyson Daniels is flying up the chart right now because there's a dearth of well, he's not really a point guard, but there's a dearth of guards that are. I mean, other than like Mathurin, Sharp, AJ Griffin, and Johnny Davis to another extent. I mean, Ivy's just way up high, but you can never have enough guards in this game. So he's someone who's interesting flying up the draft boards. But Benedict, he's the guy. He's the guy who would be such a perfect fit for this team. And I do think that he has that superstar type breakout potential to him. Yeah.
Too bad I don't think we'll be drafting high enough to get him.
Yep. That is the problem. That is the problem. But you never know. Weird things happen in the draft. Weird things happen. The other one I had up here before was, we survey 100 people. Shout out to you, brother. Thank you for joining us, man. You really think Randall will listen and respect a guy like Brunson? See, I'm not convinced that he would. That's why. That's also if I thought that he would, then that would increase my desire for adding him to the team as your number one. But I don't see. I see us kind of in a similar situation as we were before with Randall.
Yeah, Randall needs somebody that's gonna, rough him up a little bit. Like, hey, bro, you're not getting the ball. Stop pouting. Get your butt in position, and let's finish this play.
CP3.
Mm-hmm.
That's.
And if not, they'll be fighting in the locker room.
Yeah, exactly. Scott Woodruff, Keith Turner. I would even trade up for Mathurin. I would trade up for Mathurin too. That is a possibility. Because we now have the 11th pick. That does matter. The 11th over the 12th. It has some value. It's possible we can package it with a player, and we have so many second rounders in the next 2-3 seasons. We can make a nice.
What are we going to do with them?
Exactly.
We got to figure out something to do with them.
Yeah. And moving up here, where it's a situation where you move up, and it's possible that that same team that was interested in Mathurin would be happy with a Johnny Davis, then we make that trade. Because I think Mathurin is better suited for an RJ, IQ, Obi type dynamic and Cam than Johnny Davis would be. Mostly from his athleticism. And one thing to let you guys know, he might be the best passer in this entire draft. Yeah, he might be the best passer in the draft. All right, where are we now? Okay. Any last thoughts you have on these off-season moves before we move into the next category?
I mean, we're pretty similar in the way we view this off-season. I know some people might look at our moves and say, hey, we're not going to solve the problem at point guard, but we're both in the camp where we think Emmanuel Quickley should be given the opportunity to start at point guard for the New York Knicks next year. And then if, that doesn't work out, we can adjust. But I think heading into next season, we should position this team where Emmanuel Quickley can show us what he can do as a point guard. And I think he's had enough time in this league where he can get his feet set, get acclimated to the pace and the style of play, the speed of the game, where now if we do put him as a starting point guard, at least we can say, all right, we gave him everything he needed to kind of see if that was the proper position for him. And if it doesn't work, we can always pivot back, move him back off the bench into a 6-man role, and he can still continue to play that way.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And we have Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is our insurance
option.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like we're going to go down a path and get stuck, or what are they do? Stuck upriver without a paddle. That wouldn't be happening. So, and we have Deuce. If Deuce is still on the roster, because we don't know in terms of trades, but though I highly doubt that Deuce would get a look at the starting as a starting point guard over IQ at all. I don't think that's at all realistic. But
and D Rose, they probably start D Rose if they had to, and then have Deuce come off the bench.
Yep. Bingo. Exactly there. Scott Woodruff in defense of Brunson. Brunson had 24, 7, and 5 in a playoff game. He is not overrated. He fits our team perfect. Not a great athlete, but a damn good player who will make everyone else better. I agree. I agree with that. It's just a matter of the money. I just think that money, depending on what he asks for, if we can get him in that, what were we saying? 15 million?
15 to 18?
15 to 18. Even 18 starts feeling like a lot. But then again, the salary cap is going up a little
I mean,
bit.
we're paying Evan 18. Who do you think is more impactful, Brunson at the point guard or Evan Fournier on the wing?
It's a great way to put it. I'd have to say Brunson. But Fournier was a top 10 3-point shooter in the league. And a high volume one on top of that.
Yep.
So it's interesting. But it's also the thing to compare it to is what we already have. So like we were just saying, IQ, is it possible that we can get a similar production from Brunson, from IQ than from Brunson? And in some ways, I mean, from what I'm seeing, wow, I'm already on record predicting that. I'm going to recalibrate what I said. I said he could be a top 5, but I think he could be a top 5 to 10 point guard in this NBA. Like up there
through 5 more positions. 5 to 10.
Yeah, 5 to 10. Because the thing is, when you say top 5, I saw him as like the 5th, but people might think, but anywhere from 5 to 10. I think he's shown he disrupts defenses, man. He puts them on their back heels, and he's beginning to understand how to dissect a defense. And that's just, and he hasn't even really been fully given the amount of time that he deserved. So I really think we have something in IQ, but it's not fully proven yet. So that's one of the main reasons why it would have been nice to have just started him 40 games into the season. That was a wasted opportunity. Thibs.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Hey, good point, man.
Tibbs the enabler to Tibbs the regretful one.
Jordan Poole was a 28th pick, so go figure. It's about drafting the right player. 100%. 100%. I feel a lot like about Grimes that way.
They screwed Poole, too, not having him as a finalist for most improved.
Yeah, that's true. Who were the 3 most improved?
I think it's Ja. Who are the others? Ja, Bridges, and the third person slips me.
Those are good too. Those are good ones too.
I think Ja's a little bit of a stretch though for most improved.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. he was already a star.
He was a phenom when he came in.
Yeah. All right. So
that's crazy. The second overall pick is going to win most improved. How? Oh man, that's something else.
That's something crazy. So is a big star trade a good idea for the New York Knicks this offseason? So I put up these 2 tweets. The first one is highlighting how bad the Knicks have been in the past 20 years. We have the worst win percentage in the NBA over the last 20 years. 40.1. Timberwolves, they're in the playoffs. Hornets, they got into the play-in. Wizards, Kings, So this is our company. Yeah. I think if the right star trade presented itself, in my opinion, you have to seriously look at it and try to make it work without completely gutting your team. I don't want that Melo situation. Repeated again. However, I am not afraid of looking at a disgruntled star or whatever situation develops. If they make themselves available and we can swing a trade, it's a 2-team trade, a 3-team trade, a 4-team trade, however we can do it. And if it can involve a Julius Randle, get him out. If we can pull off a trade that kills as many birds with one stone as possible with one trade, I am so down for it. And NBA Trade Report too. I haven't really been able to verify this account, but they put out very clean tweets. It's never been anything that crazy, but he says sources, Knicks open to trading Julius Randle along with this year's first round pick for something, quote, significant.
Well, I mean, you have to kind of look at their credibility when they're saying we're going to trade a depressed asset and the 11th overall pick for something significant. How significant of a return are we going to get, honestly? But I'm open for it. If we can move Julius Randle, get move the 11th pick in what most would say is a weak draft, and get a player that can fit with this young core and also be a contributor out there on the court, then I'm all for it, because now you're going to get rid of Julius Randle's contract, and I would hope you're going to get a player in return that's as good as someone that we would have picked with the 11th overall pick, if not better. So I'd be open to that type of deal.
Boom, same. I mean, you're a little more you're more hesitant than I am, but we're both in favor of looking at it if it's the right fit. All right, Brandon, also, Perez.
Can I say something real quick too?
Yeah.
May 4th said, notice Tibbs coached 2 of the teams up there.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Great point. And won with both those teams. I mean, that's the other bizarro part about that. Brandon Perez, before we get to we have another trade to look at. Brandon Perez, thank you so much for the contribution, brother. Great show as always. Can't wait for the draft coverage. George, you were on the money last year. I'll donate $50 every NYK pick you get correct this year. All right.
Got to screenshot that, George.
Yeah, screenshot that. Yeah. Last year it did all work out. I mean, they did work out, man. Grimes is just a guy. He's a player. We haven't barely even talked about him this offseason, really. You know, because he got hurt and everything. But
he got hurt, yeah.
I mean, think about the roster we've got there, man. Grimes, he could be one of the top 5 3-point shooters in the game. We got Cam Reddish, dynamic wing, can slide over to the 4 if you need him. Defensively, fascinating. If he just passed more, I think it would complete his game. He's a 3-level scorer. I mean, incredibly exciting. RJ. I don't even think we mentioned RJ. I'll show. I mean, RJ, gets that efficiency going, gets back on track with his free throws.
Finishing around the rim.
Yeah, finishing around the rim. But in terms of downhill, he gets to the hoop as easy as almost any player in this league. He does get blocked a lot, but he also finishes a lot. He finished 20 points a game for an entire season. He gets those efficiency numbers up a little bit. And I think it'll help him to spray that ball more, to not be so myopic in his decision making when he gets into the restricted area.
Reads.
Yes, picking that up better. And he's the great thing about him is he said that he wants to work on that. He takes the blame. He's like, yeah, that's something I got to work on. I should have been looking for my guys more. So that's very encouraging. And he puts in the hard work. I think he could be a 24 points a game next season if he gets that efficiency up. Obi has completely legitimized when I put my balls out there, out the car window for him. And I'm like, he could be a 2010 guy. I caught a lot of grief, but he should.
He averaged close to 2010 when he plays over 28 minutes.
Exactly. And then there's Emmanuel Quickly. I think this guy's ceiling is much higher than any of us even give him credit for. So, I mean, we're looking, and then who else? Sims, exciting. Mitch, we all love. Who else? Did I ever look at anybody else? Deuce.
You didn't mention Deuce.
Love Deuce. Love his defensive tenacity. I think he just has to learn how to create space for himself, like the way Van Vliet can do. But that's technique. That's something that you'll learn when you're in college.
Experience.
Exactly. In college, you don't necessarily have to do it because you're not getting challenged that way. But in the NBA, you are. In the G League, you're not. So in the NBA, you are. Hopefully, he'll be able to get that going. I believe in it. I really do believe in this young core very, very, very strongly. Very strongly. I believe in it. And that
got Farron Hunt. Don't forget Farron.
Farron Hunt. Yeah. Well, he'll be in Westchester next year.
Yeah, right. You're about to get into a speech on Farron too just now.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke, but I was going this is an interesting one. Mathurin and Sochin. I think that's how you say it.
For Liddell and
I've
Jokic?
heard some good things about him. I got to scout him a little stronger, though. All right, well, let's go to boom. This is the guy who fits in with our young core. This is the kind of guy, doesn't have to be him, but this is like an example of what I'm talking about for adding a big star, a big name to this particular type of young core. Unfortunately, it would cost us some of the young assets that we have. It would. I just threw these trade ideas up. I'm not in favor of them. I'm just saying, and I don't even think any of like from Knicks Zone, which shout out to Knicks Zone for putting this out. Would you do this trade? Jazz get Julius Randle, Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, the 2022 first round pick and the 2024 first round pick. And the Knicks get Donovan Mitchell and Royce O'Neal. I think, yeah, I would do that. I don't think the Jazz would.
Right? You free up Julius Randle's contract, Evan Fournier's contract, and all that's really costing you is Quentin Grimes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're giving up some first round picks too. But
you're giving up two first rounds.
Yeah, but 2022, that's this year. We're looking at the 11th overall pick. You can live with it. It's a weak draft. And in 2024, you would hope with Donovan Mitchell, RJ, you're keeping Cam, you're keeping Quick, you still have Mitch. You would assume with all those players put together, you would assume by 2024 we'd figure it out, and that would be a pick that's not in the lottery. So again, you'd live with it a day of the week.
You know, here's the only way I can see that trade happening from the Jazz's viewpoint is if we get lucky and we jump up into the top 4 and we get, let's say we get the 4th pick. We did improve our chances by 2.5% by finishing 11th from when we were in 12th position. If that first round pick this season turns into the number 4 pick, number 3 pick, packaged with a Randall, we may not even have to put Grimes in there. I'm not sure. I could see the Jazz. I could see them being interested in that situation. They can look at themselves and say, you know what, we can get a Jaden Ivey who can kind of give us what we, what Donovan's given us. Of course, there's no guarantee, but he seems to trend in that direction. And then we get, this power forward that we need. We get that outside shooting that they love in Utah, and they get the defense from Grimes. So in that respect, it's possible. The other trade is this is from NBA Analysis Network, which they're always fun for like the crazy fantasy type trades.
Oh, I didn't even get into the second trade.
Yeah.
I was so focused on getting Fournier out of here. Did we get Fournier out of here? The other one? I'll see. We don't get Fournier out of here.
No. I'll read this. You're not going to like this one. The Knicks receive Donovan Mitchell, Royce O'Neal, and Juancho, and the Jazz receive Julius Randle, Cam Reddish, Derrick Rose, Quentin Grimes, and draft capital.
Yeah, no, I don't want. Not that I don't want Donovan Mitchell. It's just I don't want to give up.
You think is that too much?
First of all, they don't specify how much draft capital, but now we're giving up Grimes and Cam. I mean, I just might do the deal for the fact that we can pay Donovan Mitchell without having to give up RJ. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gun to my head, I might do it just
look, guys,
just for that.
This is the reality of what's going to happen. It's going to hurt to acquire a top 20 guy. And Donovan is so young, he could end up being a top 10 guy in this league. I mean, he's that kind of player. He's so dynamic. The trade is going to have to hurt a little for us. We're going to need that KY because there's no way that you're going to acquire a guy like this and it'd be totally that we're all going to be chill with this, with a trade. So Lex is like, no to the second trade. Hey, look, that's, and you might be right, but at some point for us to significantly upgrade this roster, unless one of our guys pops, unless RJ pops and becomes an all-star, and same with IQ or Reddish or Obi or one of those guys get into that conversation, we're going to have to trade for one.
And
It's just
Juancho's, we had his brother previously,
yeah,
right,
we had his
Willie?
brother. We had his brother. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. Royce O'Neal. No, he's a player. He'd be
He's
he'd
got
be a nice
game.
piece. He'd be a nice piece, and we can also then spin him around and trade him for something else if we needed to. But he's a nice asset to acquire. May 4th says I would add quickly instead of Grimes in that trade in a heartbeat.
I don't know. With Grimes and the knee issues, I might be
Mm.
more interested in including Grimes in the deal.
Yeah, I'll have to wait and see on what we hear about the knee.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, they both would be painful for me to give up. I love both those guys, but that's just the reality of the NBA. You know, we're going to have to do it at some point. And it does seem like Leon is ready to do it. Whether he gets desperate and makes the wrong move, we shall see. We shall see. Any last thoughts on any of this?
On the deal, I mean, honestly, I don't think this is the offseason for us to kind of make that splash. You know, if a star becomes available and our hands are forced and we have to make a move in order to get the guy that we really want, then, you know, I'd be open to it. But I don't think we should be going too crazy right now to try and bring in, you know, that elite talent, at least not this offseason. We should continue to try and cultivate what we have here on this roster. And then maybe next trade deadline, we might be in a little bit of a better position negotiation wise to make big moves and things like that. And we'd have
you mean in season?
In season.
Next season? Yeah. Next
either in season next season or next off season. We'd have a larger sample size of what these guys can do, what these young players can do in extended minutes. That way we can evaluate trades a little bit better. This off season, I really want to see how this young core can play when they're the focal point of this team as opposed to the vets, because, you know, the young guys have played well over the last 2 years of Tom Thibodeau's tenure, but they have not been the focal point of this team. I want to see how they perform when this team is investing all our assets into building them up. So let's see what kind of returns we get next season before we decide to make any, you know, crazy moves trying to bring in disgruntled superstars.
I'm not sure about that, May 4th. I think these guys are too smart. They want to win. I think they would figure it out. It's definitely something they'd have to work out. It's not like an automatic, but I think they would figure it out. Lex had a good one here. What if the Jazz take a first-round exit? Spider becomes disgruntled. Well, we need Luka to play for that to happen.
Facts.
We need Luka to play. But that's interesting. But the interesting thing here is we do need Luka to play to get them out in the first round. But if the Jazz get past the Mavs because Luka wasn't able to play and they get embarrassed in the second round, I think Spiders might still be in the same mentality. And I'd be like, hey, the only reason we got through the first round is because their best player, their all-NBA guy, couldn't play, you know? And so I don't think it's like if they get into the second round, no matter what, that for sure Spiders still going to want to stay in Utah. That's kind of what I was trying to say. I don't know. I muddled that.
Imagine behind the scenes, we got a race as to which young star can force their way to New York first. We've got a disgruntled Zion in New Orleans, and then we've got Donovan Mitchell. Imagine both of them request a trade and put Knicks.
Maybe we do have that info. Well, you and I already did the Zion for Julius trade, but Zion is still.
There's also some more news when it comes to Zion as well.
I almost put Zion in here. I almost put Zion in here again. Hey, look, people are all like, "Oh, Zion's not going to want to get traded from. He's not going to want to get traded from New Orleans. Look at them; they're into the playoffs and all this stuff." It's like they had a worse record than the Knicks. If the Knicks played in the West, we would be the Pelicans. So you know they're not a better team than the Knicks. They got CJ McCollum now, which is great for them. But
they got
they got Ingram. So we got RJ. You know, you give us.
George, don't say that. George, don't say it like that. Like Ingram and RJ
I'll take
on the same level.
I'll take it.
RJ can get there, but I wouldn't say they got Ingram and we got RJ and call it like
I already made the statistical comparison. RJ in his third season did much better than Ingram did in his.
Yeah, but we're not comparing RJ in his third season to Ingram in his third season. I'm comparing Ingram 2022 to RJ 2022. It's not a wash.
But the future matters. Are you ever going to win a chip with Brandon Ingram?
It remains to be seen. Exactly. I think he could be a piece on the championship team. Can he be number one?
But we can say that about RJ too. Remains to be seen. He could be a piece. I'm just saying they're not that much better team. Like the argument that they've gotten deeper into the playoffs and all this stuff is going to convince Zion to stay. It's the same shit. If they wouldn't even make the playoffs, it'd be us if they were in the East. The West.
And I think Zion wanting out would have to do more so with the location as opposed to his teammates out there anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't have a big problem with the teammates.
Yeah, anybody trying to force their way to the Knicks aren't forcing their way because we have a Goliath on our team, where we are a juggernaut or anything like that. It's because they want to come play in New York and they want to help build a championship team. Because right now, if you're coming to New York, you're not automatically turning us into a championship overnight like it's a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
So that's something they have to be prepared for as well.
Yes. DNI77 says we're not winning with Spida and RJ. If you mean the chip, the whole thing, probably not. Probably not. We would need another piece. But think about that. If you are Karl Anthony Towns, 3 seasons from now,
after Tibbs is fired,
after Tibbs is gone, and the Knicks got Spida and RJ, and we've been kind of in the running, gotten into second rounds, playoffs here and there, and your cat, you'd be like, I'm gonna go play with those guys. We can win it all. That's the idea behind it. You're right. Them alone aren't going to do it, but they can attract other pieces. Oh man, this has been great.
Yep.
Got 140 in the chat. You guys hit that thumbs up. Really appreciate this. We've been going an hour and a half. There are some other things that we could talk about, but let's see if you want to shout out anybody in the chat.
Let's see. May 4th says Spider's game is just tailor-made for MSG.
That is true.
Impact and Flash.
It'd be fine. Can you imagine like the excitement that would be at the Garden with him?
Right, yeah. I mean, they'd be hiking up the prices at the Garden, that's for sure. We get more emails.
Yeah, that's right, man.
What we got going on here?
Good ones back here.
Still Dre says Leon's letter gave us clear direction. He stated he's staying patient and developing the youth for the near future. Yeah, the letter was pretty much the transcript for his interview with Breen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pretty much said the same exact thing.
Yeah.
But I thought this was the plan, and then we went and hired Tibbs. So
yeah,
it's just conflicting messages all over the place.
Yeah. And we've heard from several beat reporters that the Knicks they're going to look at doing a trade for a big name star in the off season. They're not going to go crazy like we were saying before, but they are looking at it despite what he said in the letter. Jay Vertical says thoughts on Mark Williams. I think Mark Williams is nice. I like him. And depending on how things shake out with Mitch and other trades and some packages, if we are in need and let's say we trade down in the draft, but then again, his stock is going up. He's interesting. I don't know where he's going to be, but let's say we trade down, we're like 15th, 16th, and he's there. I would totally grab him. He's a really good talent.
Who we decide to draft is going to say a lot about what we decide to do with some of these guys on this team moving forward. You think if we draft the center, but certain that Mitch is out there?
Yes. I think if we draft the center, that means that Leon and company know that they're going to have to just wait and see with Mitch. And then since you can't gamble with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I do there's another guy who I think will be available maybe lower first round is what was his name? The guy from Purdue, the other Williams from Purdue, the center, Tavion Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Tavion Williams, great passer, interesting touch, just not that fast, but just a smart player. And I'm telling you, an outstanding passer for a center. outstanding. So he's another interesting guy. Could be a value pick later on. Okay, we got some more.
What you call it? Cully says he read an article from a month ago that Leon Rose underbid a lot.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And
that's fine. That's how you do it. But didn't we hear something recently that they've been talking?
They're still
again?
in talks. Yeah, Leon said it during his interview with Breen.
Yeah, Leon said it. Yeah, so that kind of shows that he's still engaged. He's still interested. He just wants to see, what the number's going to be.
But I'm telling you, man, it's a little bit troublesome seeing that they're not able to come to terms, because we know the most that they can give him. And if that's not what Mitch wants, then Mitch is probably going to get a deal in excess of 15 mil. And then it'll all come down to whether or not Leon Rose is willing to pay that. And if Cully is correct and they already underbid substantially, then, it'll be hard for them to now work their way back up to where Mitch wants to be in terms of price point, especially when he's unrestricted and he'll have teams like Detroit and also Dallas in his ear.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky.
Maybe even Phoenix too. Phoenix will come calling if they're not able to come to terms with the DeAndre Ayton. They might bring in a Mitch. You see JaVale McGee. The Suns look great when he's out there on the court with them, and Mitch is a similar prototype to a JaVale McGee. So I can see him being a plug and play over there.
Yeah. Adrian, reality. How about Dawn Staley as the next Knicks coach? That would be awesome. That would be awesome from like a historic standpoint. But I don't
First
think
woman coach.
Yeah, not sure about that. We'll see. Becky Hammond.
It'd be Becky Hammond before her, I think.
It would be Becky before. Yeah, she just knows the pro game inside and out. Dawn
from Pop.
Yeah, Dawn would have to get like a top assistant spot first.
Gig in the NBA.
Yeah, gig in the NBA. With the kind of like a Johnny Bryant type situation, I think. It's a very different game. Let's see. We got some other chats here. May 4th says, wish Knicks would just sit still for once. We have everything in our favor. Picks, youth, front office. I mean, just hold out a little longer. That is maybe what will happen. That is. This is a star-driven league. And if a star presents himself, makes himself available, and wants to come to the Knicks, we have to look at him seriously. We have to take a serious look at him. That's my feeling about it. But if the right one doesn't present themselves, I'm all for totally focusing on the youth and adding a vet here and there that it would support the youth. The problem is Thibs. I could easily see Thibs starting. Let's say we got Ricky Rubio. I could see him starting Ricky Rubio over IQ.
Or Rondo.
Yeah, actually, someone tweeted something.
Yeah, funny. Rondo and Love would have been starting for the Knicks, they said.
Yeah. That was a great tweet.
Hey, Love's in the running for 6th Man of the Year awards. That's how we should be using our vets. Burks, Fournier, if they were coming off the bench all season, you probably wouldn't hear as many complaints about them. They'd be in for a limited amount of time. They wouldn't be playing. What did Burks average? Like 29 minutes per game, and Fournier averaged right around 28 minutes per game. I think that's a little too much for those guys. You get them right around that 20 to 22 minutes per game, and I think you see better returns.
Well, I think, what was it, since the All-Star break, Burks averaged more minutes than any other player in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I know it was some stretch of games. I don't know, but maybe it was just March, whatever it was. So that's the problem with Thibs. And that I saw something else here that was interesting. Shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for joining us, man. Great chat. Geraldine, Mike Boy, Cully, Scott Woodruff. We surveyed 100 people. This thing. I barely even paid attention to it because he
gets snubbed every year.
Yeah, he gets snubbed every year.
I think they do it on purpose right now. It's marketing at this point. They know Knicks fans are going to get enraged, and then we're going to share it, and then it'll blow up on the algorithm. So that's at this point, that's all that is. I don't think they really believe some of the stuff they put out there. I think it's just to get Knicks fans riled up, knowing that every year we're gonna click looking for RJ Barrett. We're not gonna see RJ Barrett, and then we're gonna respond. So that's just them trying to get us out of character.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll be looking at, other trades. We'll be looking at other trade possibilities later on, either on my channel or in Quis' channel. Some other ideas. There's guys out there that are interesting, but we need to put them under the microscope and how they fit and how much they would cost. Guys like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Some people. Oh yeah, DeJounte
Murray.
Yeah,
the other option.
Yeah, DeJounte Murray. There's a couple of other guys like that. So
Fox, if they're still willing to move on from
Fox,
him,
that was the other guy. Yeah, I heard about Fox. So we'll definitely investigate those, but those don't seem like the kind that, let's say, for example, we were to make that big trade that we were just describing, but it's SGA instead of Donovan Mitchell. I think it'd be a harder sell.
Mm-hmm. I think SGA still has a little bit more to prove before you can start putting him on that level of a Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah. Let's see this one. So the Dwayne Dennis, thank you, man. So the elephant in the room with Thibs next year is sit the end of next season. Thibs pulls the same stunt, and we still don't know what our young assets can do due to lack of burn and poor rotations. Facts. I already went on record.
That's why you said you got to take away his toys.
Exactly.
Can't allow him to pull the same stunt.
Exactly. And put out a video directly talking to Leon and Thibs exactly about this. I said straight out, whatever you guys do this off season, we better not be in the same exact situation next year.
Facts.
Cannot. That would, there'll be a revolt. If you think Knicks fans and Knicks Twitter and Knicks universe, everything, we're upset now? Another year of this? Forget about it.
They're already talking about protesting and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Hamish, thank you so much for your contribution, brother. Do you think the Knicks are getting an assistant coach to rev up the offense? Nope. Well, I do think that there's an open slot. Kenny Payne left. There's an open slot. And I would say, I think it will be a more offensive-minded coach. He won't be presented as an offensive coach. It won't be talked about that way. He's not going to displace Johnny Bryant in the hierarchy. He might be someone who fits right underneath Johnny Bryant, who is a more defensive-minded coach. That's my feeling. And it would be the smart move. What do you think, Quis?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Thibs is a my way or the highway type of coach, and I don't think he'd want to bring in somebody else again to kind of meddle with his system. He has his coaches that have traveled with him. I don't think he'll bring in somebody else that's going to make any drastic changes to the way
you think Leon and Worldwide West might force him to, though? Like the way they did with...
I don't think, even if they force him, at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to whether Thibs is going to take, whatever advice he's offering and then apply it to the team. At the end of the day, Thibs is the one that's going to control any type of access the coach is going to have to the game plan and to any type of gameplay. So I just don't see Thibs allowing that type of freedom to another outside person coming in and kind of change up what he does offensively, especially if he's having this revelation that he can win with the young guys. I think he's going to want to try and put the young guys under his system because that's the way he would have envisioned himself winning. I just don't see him going out there and trying to, you can't teach a old dog new tricks. So I don't think you're going to bring in a new coach and have him just switch everything up in one season at least. I don't think he's built that type of relationship with this offensive guru that's out there and available to come over.
You make a great case for that, for his resistance for it, and history supports your view. I think I'm gonna side on I'm gonna go on the side of Thibs wants to win so badly that it would be smart for him to open himself up to another voice, a voice that he, appreciates and respects, not someone who's shoved down his throat, but that he picks from a list of 3 that Leon and Worldwide Wes and, whoever else has a voice, Rosas.
Yeah, was it Gerson Rosas?
Yeah, Gerson Rosas. That's the exact reason why he's here, to give that kind of consulting. They give him a list.
But isn't he the guy that replaced Tibbs over Mitty?
That's what I mean. I've never confirmed that 100%, but I've heard things like that before. It could be.
Also, I think the guy that they elevated into Kenny Payne's spot is the same guy that kind of threw Mark Jackson under the bus when he was with the Warriors. So we've already got some shady characters on the coaching staff already. So to bring somebody else in to run the offense, I mean, it remains to be seen. I just don't see it happening. I think Tibbs is going to be Tibbs, and he's just going to try to put the young guys into his system and see how it goes.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Maybe it's not a specific offensive coach, because these street signs put in there, they can hire a shooting coach, and Berman even mentioned that in the interview. That's what I mean. I mean, it's somebody who's got more of an offensive focus, an offensive slant to the way they approach the game. It would be the smart move for Thibs to open himself up to that. He still would be the guy who sets the strategy. I'm not saying he dumps his offensive scheme and goes with, XYZ guy's scheme.
But we're still trying to figure out what Thibs' scheme is. That's why I don't know if
penetrate
and kick,
find the open guy, keep the ball moving.
So it's just on the players to try to find a way to penetrate that. He doesn't give them any type of guidance or anything.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more details to it. But they're not.
Doesn't seem like it out there.
Doesn't seem. Yeah.
It's like laissez faire. Do as you please. Figure it out. If you can get a screen, get it. If not, go ISO crazy and then kick.
Quis, here's the other thing too. His starting shooting guard, who finished 5th in most 3-pointers made, has come out and said several times, we don't know what our offensive scheme is in the 4th quarter. We don't know what our game plan is. Not that exact words, but I don't remember the exact words that he used, but he's alluded to it. He has actually said it. So it's obviously an issue. And if you don't address the issue, then you're setting yourself up for continued failure. I think, I get your point. I could totally see, you're right. Thibs could just be totally stubborn and they just hire, a regular dude. But I hope that they don't. I hope that they do add someone that will help rev up the offense in one form or another.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed,
man. All we can do is pray at this point, because it seems like we're going to have Randall and Tibbs back. So they need to switch something up. And if that's a shooting coach, then God bless him. Go ahead and bring him in. But Tibbs got to listen to him. And because if Tibbs isn't going to listen to him, pay me to be the offensive coach so he can ignore me all day. I'll take the money.
I'll take the check and get ignored.
Right? Just give me all the Knicks polos I can wear on the sideline, a jumpsuit. I'm there for the perks if you're not going to listen to me. Shit.
Yes. I'll tell you, though, I do think the players listen to us in some form, in some way. I don't know if directly.
I assume nobody listens to me, and I just get excited.
I assume it too, but
they do.
Dude, I could remember about 2 months before the season ended, maybe a month and a half, like pointing out to Fournier. It's like why doesn't Fournier develop a 2-man game with Mitch? Like, why? First half of the season, nothing. And then we started seeing it. It was a little problematic. Sometimes he'd miss him. It wasn't the greatest passes, but he started doing it. And then it actually started working. So either, it could be a unified message that we all put it out there and it kind of permeates and it trickles out and it gets into their heads in some form or another. Same thing with RJ. So let's hope that, the positive viewpoints that we put out here and the criticism, the criticism that we put out gets taken and appreciated, because we do watch these games a lot, and no one wants them to succeed more than us.
Yeah, man. Fans as a whole, man, we've been supporting this team for years, and we haven't seen any, playoff or championship contention from this team. We've been to the playoffs here and there sporadically, but legitimate playoff shot, we haven't had that in decades.
Hit that thumbs up button for us. We're almost at 100. That'd be great.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. All right, we're gonna wind this down. We've been going for almost an hour and 50 minutes. We still have 111 in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us so much. I really appreciate that.
You guys tuning in.
Yeah. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and subscribe to Sports Vibes TV as well. And let's see what else. Any other last thoughts before we sign off?
Last thoughts. Make sure you guys are tuned into the Bucks playoff series. You know, former Nick Luka Vildoza might get some playing time. I'm excited to see if he'll get some opportunities to do something in the playoffs. He was with the Knicks last year. I thought he could have helped in the playoffs, but Tibbs ain't play him, and we ended up cutting him because he got injured throughout the preseason. And now he's with the championship Bucks. The former champions, Milwaukee Bucks, have yet to be dethroned. Let's see if they can run through the gauntlet again. And hopefully, you know, Luka can bring home a championship to Argentina. You know, we don't have a skin in the game, so I'll root for the former Knicks.
All right, there you go. Who do you think is going to come out of the East?
I mean, after seeing what the Heat were able to do to the Hawks defensively, you got to have them in contention, and then the Bucks. So between those two, I think.
So for you, do you think Heat and Bucks at the end?
Bucks.
I just see the Bucks figuring it out. Giannis has that mentality right now where he wants another ring. He wants another chip, and he's one of the best, if not the best player right now. And he's got a great support staff there. I still think the Bucks are the team to beat, and I don't even think the Nets are going to get past the Celtics.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm praying for it. I know a lot of people are saying if you're a New York fan, you can't like the Celtics. Well, I don't like the Celtics. I just want them to beat the Nets.
Yeah, I know. It was a tough thing to watch because you're like, because I also don't want the Celtics to do well.
At all.
I wouldn't mind the Celtics beating the Nets in this round and then losing in the next round.
In the following
there
round.
you go. There we go. So you get them both out. The Philadelphia, the Sixers. Look, Embiid, Maxi's balling. Tobias finally woke up. Harden, I don't know what he's still doing.
Well, George, I gotta ask you. So since you rank Quick so highly, where would you rank Maxi?
I think they're very even. But Quick is a better long range shooter, and I think he's a better off the dribble shooter. And I think
Maxi's a better finisher.
Maxi right now is a better finisher, but look at IQ what he was doing.
I think he has tighter handle as well. So
he has a tighter handle, is a slightly tighter handle, and he's a better finisher. Which usually that goes hand in hand.
Yeah, true.
You know, it's hard to be a really
I think
finisher.
Maxi, him being a better finisher, is him being a little bit more solid when it comes to his frame. You know, Quick is a little bit slender. I guess
he's longer.
Right term.
Yeah, he's slender. He's longer. Quick has a bigger wingspan. So Quick can be I think Quick is a better defender. So you know what I mean? They each have their pluses and minuses. I see them as very equal. That's why
similar players, but they all have their strengths and weaknesses.
Bam. Yes. I see Maxi as developed. I loved him in college, but I loved IQ in college too. Even though I wasn't sure in college if IQ could be a point guard. I wasn't sure, but watching him last season, and then obviously watching him this season, I'm totally convinced that he can be. I know he still leans more to combo, but that's okay. That's how the game is today. Yeah, they were teammates. Yes, street science, and they love each other. They're best friends.
They got a little rivalry going on too. Remember, Quick dropped him.
Yeah, he dropped him. I used that photo, and then he snapped his ankles.
Right?
Yeah.
He's going to invite him over to the crib and probably have that as a poster.
Yo, if they had been able to play that March Madness, it might have been Kentucky with Maxi and Quick against Dayton with Obi. Dayton had won 20 games in a row that season. They were the third-ranked team. Kansas was number one, but I think they weren't quite ready. They're not the team. They weren't as good as the team that just won.
Speaking about Obi, how you feel about his brother entering the NBA draft?
Did he?
I believe so. Yeah, let me Google it. Make sure I hadn't heard misinformation.
I hadn't heard that. I like Jacob. He's a good player. He's got a lot of the attributes that Obi does, but Obi's just got that nice touch, man.
Yeah, Jacob Toppin enters NBA draft. I
Hmm.
guess he hasn't hired an agent yet, though, so we could always
Okay.
renege.
Maybe that's what he'll do. He'll go back. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching this. Whoa! Before we get to it, I think it's gonna be the Bucks. What about the West?
The West is trickier. Let's see. I mean, Phoenix, of course, you got to give Phoenix the edge. They've been playing great all season. Who could give them trouble? Yeah, I mean, I guess I got to give you the bland answer, and I think it's going to be the Suns. I think you
So
see
it's gonna be a repeat.
CP3. Yeah, you see what CP3 was able to do yesterday, just completely take over that game against an unmatched Pelicans team. You know, you've got Ayton. If he's able to perform like that, he's going to get himself a ring and a bag next season. You look at Bridges, he's in contention to be Defensive Player of the Year. That team is just deep. You know, you even got a player like Jay Crowder. I think he just put up a bunch of ones throughout the stat line, but even he can still contribute defensively and be a problem out there at times.
He's
So
a
you look
problem.
at the Suns,
He's a problem.
yeah.
He can hit the three, spaces the floor for you.
Plays defense.
His defense.
Gritty.
He's a top defender. Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Suns.
I think the I'd have to like give a slight edge to the Suns, but I think the Warriors are gonna go deep. I think we're gonna have can't wait, can we? Is that the way the bracket is set up? We're gonna have a Warriors Suns Western Conference final. That would be a beautiful battle.
Well, the Suns are the first seed. What are the Warriors? 3?
Warriors are third.
Well, if they're second or third, then yeah, it would be in the finals.
Let me see here.
Yeah, playoff bracket.
Oh no, it can be because they're in the lower bracket. The Warriors are in the lower bracket with Memphis and Minnesota.
What seed is that?
They're the third seed. Memphis is second.
Okay.
Minnesota's seventh. So Warriors get into the second round. They face the Grizzlies. Yeah, it could be a Eastern Conference Finals of Warriors and Suns.
Yeah, the Suns are going to get to the finals, I think, automatically.
The Eastern Conference
Dallas,
Finals?
The Jazz.
I mean, the Western Conference Finals? Yeah.
I don't see the Mavs, the Jazz, or the Pelicans beating them. They might sweep their way through. Wouldn't be shocked.
They might.
And then you look at the Warriors. Yeah, I think the Warriors are going to have a pretty easy chance to get into the conference finals as well. I mean, Memphis will be difficult, if they're able to pass or beat the Timberwolves. They're already coming from behind, but I think they're still a young team. And you look at the Golden State Warriors; they're led by Steph, Clay, Draymond. They're already playoff tested, so I think they'll have enough to get past the young Memphis Grizzlies.
In the East, yeah, if Celtics beat the Nets, they'll have to battle the Bucks in the next round. I think the Bucks are going to win that. So then Miami, it'll be Miami and Philly.
Ooh, yeah, actually,
I think Philly could win. Philly could beat them. They can beat
the Bucks are going to have a more difficult time getting to the conference finals than I think the Suns.
Because of Boston?
Boston and Brooklyn, whoever wins that game.
Yeah. It's a tough matchup, but I think they can do it.
That might decide who gets to the finals right there.
Yeah. Loving it. I love the playoffs. Just
love the NBA on a weekend, man. You got 4 games, especially
Dark Horse. Yeah, Dark Horse. Brandel says Dark Horse, thinking Wolves and Celtics. Those are good dark horses. The Boston Celtics.
So much. I don't think the Celtics are a dark horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have a pretty legitimate shot. Whoever wins that conference semifinals between the Bucks and either the Celtics or the Nets,
never know, injuries,
going to the finals.
A weird injury to I don't think the Bucks can endure any kind of injury to any of their key guys and repeat.
I think you said about any team in the playoffs right now. When any of the key guys go down, it's over.
That's true.
Maybe the Warriors, but
maybe the Warriors. Warriors is the one
team.
Yeah. But like the Bucks, if they lose Middleton, they're done. There's nobody there. They lose Drew.
They got Luka. Luka might not see a minute the whole playoffs. You know, teams shorten up their rotations in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm hoping though. Fingers crossed.
The Mavs would have been good if the other Luka Doncic had been playing. Mavs would have been an interesting dark horse.
He can always come back though. You never know.
He might come back, so he's in the running for the dark horse.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Jazz, I think, have no shot. Nuggets, I think, have no shot. I mean, Timberwolves, they're a young, scrappy team, but
you never know. The West, I like the way they're playing. I like the way the Wolves are playing.
I hear you, but the West, I think, doesn't have the same appeal that you've seen from that conference in years prior. I think a lot of the interesting matchups are going to be here in the East.
Yeah. Dwayne Dennis, the front office needs to keep Thibs in check, accountable. And Thibs needs to hold the assistants accountable with growth development. Dolan holding L. Rose accountable too, from the top down.
Facts.
That's right. Facts. Okay. We've been on for 2 hours. We're going to sign off now. This is a long stream for us. It's been great, though.
Well, long stream for me. You're normally on for 2 hours.
Do like an hour and a half.
The draft.
Oh, the Fox.
That was a 2-hour stream.
That was.
Get used to this. You had a couple recaps that were live streams. They were 2 hours.
Yeah, a couple ones, special shows. Well, this was our first one. Our first one on Into the Knicks-Verse since the season ended. If you haven't seen, Quis and I, we did a show last week on Sports Vibes TV, so definitely check that out.
And if you haven't checked it out already, I will re-upload the portions in shorter segments so you guys can tune into the players you want to see us discuss.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching this. Again, my name is George, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so to Into the Knicks-Verse and to Quis Sports Vibes TV. We appreciate all the support and the love and the input from you guys. It really does help us understand. You guys give us great ideas often. Thanks. And I love when you guys challenge our ideas. It's a back and forth. That's what it's about. We all want the same thing. We want the Knicks to become a winning team again. And there are many paths to it. But we do know that the main path right now includes focusing on the young players. There is no doubt about that. We felt that at the beginning of last year, felt it 10 games in, 20 games in, 30, like all through the season. And at the end, our instincts were verified by the performance that the young guys had. And when you look at their metrics, those are real numbers. They are a dynamic young core who I feel have a tremendous upside. They just need to be unlocked further. Hopefully that's what Thibs will be spending his summer thinking about and figuring out. Quis, any last sign off?
No, my sign off was the Luka Vildoza. Let's go for Luka. Root for Luka.
Root for Luka. That's where we ended up here. Same as a year
ago. Hey, Mitch is healthy at least this time of the season. Because that was something we were concerned about around this time last season as well. Mitch's health. And he played a career high in minutes played, so that's definitely encouraging. Now it's all about finding out if we can come to terms on a deal.
Exactly. All righty. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you around the Knicks-Verse.